welcome back to another Teach Tape Tuesday where I go and explain the basics of football. Now, the first week we talked about the defensive side and we went through some key formations. This week we're going even further, but we're going to go in reverse this time because I want to give an entry level to people that don't even know the basic positions. Now, this is going to be both informative, but also hopefully helps you just understand the game to begin with. I recognize a key barrier is not knowing what people do, who people are, and I'm going to give some examples of each position because how better do you know than by watching those sort of people to determine what they are. So, first person, QB, quarterback. Now their role, their job, throw the ball. They run the offense. And they're really like the leader, the natural leader of the team. Examples, Patrick Mahomes, as we all know him and his wife. Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson. And my GOAT, Dak Prescott. So the quarterback position, very important. This is the position you think of first when you think like team and who is in charge. So definitely an important position to know, and also kind of allows you to just like, okay, this is the guy that I see a lot. What does he actually do? So that's the basic of what the quarterback does. The next position we're going to go over is going to be running back. So we're going to do all the flash positions, all the ones people care about. This is offense, so we'll go ahead and write that here. That will stay. But we have running back, so RB or F, right? They might call it a different thing. But the running back is the person that runs the ball. Their job is to make the quarterback's job easier. So they run the ball. They catch the ball. And then they're close to the quarterback, but their job is also to step up and help the quarterback out whenever there's people coming for him. So they block. So some examples of running backs that people might know. We have Gibbs from the Lions. We have Christian McCaffrey. And then for my former Cowboys fans or current Cowboys fans, we have Zeke. Miss Zeke. But these are some examples of running backs. And they have a very important job. And oftentimes they are the quarterback's kind of bestie. They help make the offense go and play better. So very important position. Next up, we have the wide receiver. Now for the wide receiver, there's multiple positions, so we're going to go through generally what a receiver is, and then we'll go through the different types. So there's the X, Y, Z, and then some teams will call it an H, but that's just different terminology, doesn't really matter. But overall, what does a receiver do? They catch the ball. These people are the ones that run around, they score a touchdown, they make plays. When you think, I need something good to happen, give the ball to the receiver. They block. They celebrate. So if you see a receiver, you're like, hey, this person's good. Who are some examples of that? Well, CeeDee Lamb, who I obviously love. George Pickens, another Cowboys receiver. We have A.J. Brown. Justin Jefferson. And there's many other great receivers, but they have different roles, right? So this person, the X, is the number one. They're like the number one guy. They're the group leader. They're in charge. They kind of have like that, like, I'm the biggest and baddest. The Y is the number 2. That's like their duo. They're Robin. Their go-to. So for the Cowboys, for example, CeeDee Lamb would be X, and then George Pickens would be the Y. And then for Z, this is the small person who's the number 3. They're the inside player. They're the little guy who runs around. They look like they're avoiding all the contact. This is like Cole Beasley. This is like Khalil Shakur. This is the sort of guy that's like smaller and can move around a lot. And then the H is a bigger body. They're bigger body. They kind of like a fullback or a tight end type person. Speaking of tight end, we're going to move on to tight end, so that was receiver. And an important thing to note is different teams have different terminology when referring to this. But I'm trying to just make it easy. Trying to just make it something that is easy to process. So the receiver or the Y, depending on the team, or the H, their job, block like a lineman, catch like a receiver, be big. Now, a tight end is like a big receiver. They're basically like a lineman. They play on the end of the line. They can play split out, but their job is very hard because they have to be able to catch. They have to be able to block. They have to be an important part of the offense regardless, just because they're important. So this is the QB's bestie. So if you think of a quarterback and their tight end, they're like that. They're best friends. Think about Brady and Gronk. So examples, we have Gronk. We have Travis Kelce. We have, well, I'm a Tyler Warren guy because of fantasy. But we have Mr. George Kittle. So their job is very important. They're kind of like the fun guy of the offense, but still very, very important. And they have a very big role in how the quarterback kind of has a safety outlet. They're like their stuffed animal that kind of keeps them safe and feeling protected. Next up, we're going to go to the O-line. Now, the O-line, there's 5 positions on the O-line. I'm just going to break it down into 3. So there's 5 of them, but there is the tackle, the guard, and then the center. So if you look at it from how we kind of draw C center, there's guard, tackle. Tackle's job, QB, blind side. They're on the wide side. They're the furthest out. So they normally go against the faster guys, whereas the guards go against the heavy guys. And then the center is just, they go here, they go there, they go everywhere. This is the smart person, so let's go ahead and make a cap. Let's go ahead and make a graduation cap because the center is the guy that is the smartest. And this is like a task or whatever. The center is the one that determines a lot of the play strength. He decides like, hey, we should run this ball here, or maybe we don't. So the quarterback's blind side is the tackle. Think of, he's a great Tyron Smith, who's a great Cowboy. And then current day, maybe Joe Alt, Penei Sewell, that type of person. The guard, they primarily are a run blocker, but they deal with the heavy guys, so the big guys that are across from them. Some important guards that you might know, there's Landon Dickerson from the Eagles, Zach Martin from the Cowboys, Quentin Nelson. If you can't tell by now, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm just going to try and give as many relatable examples as possible, but I want to shout out the guys when I can. And then at the center, they are the brains of the line. So they make all the calls, like I said. And they're very important in deciding if the play should run or not. So examples of the center. For the Commanders, Tyler Biotish, former Jason Kelsey, he's a very popular center. We can go with, trying to think of other prominent. We'll go with Biotish. Dish. And then, who else? I'm not sure. We'll just stick with those two for now. But those are some examples of linemen. Not sure why I'm blanking. And that's about it for the offensive side. That is, in the simplest form, the positions on offense. And whenever you think of who is out there on the field, you can refer to this video and be like, okay, that's what this person is. They're going to mention it on TV. That's what Tom Brady means. That's what Tony Romo's saying. You know, like, these are who those people are. Now, defense. Now I'm a defense guy, but I'm going to try and make this easy to process just because there's a lot of positions and technicalities, but I'm going to try and go through and make it as universal as possible. So there's different ways to line up in defense. There's different positions based on that, but we're going to just act like it is, you know, pretty universal and nonchalant. So D-line, we have defensive end, and then we have defensive tackle. Defensive tackle. Now, they can have many names, so I'm just going to go through some of the spots you might have a defensive end, and this is a lot more complex, so I'll have videos going into in depth like each position, but we have the 9, the 7, the 5, the 4I, and basically what this means, right, is like we've kind of talked about before, but with the line, so this is the center, and then you have the guard and the tackle, guard and the tackle. Where you line up is kind of like where that is. So say there's a tight end here, and then we'll do it in red to make it easy. So this, on the outside of the tackle, or on the outside of the tight end, you are a 9. On the inside, you are a 7. If you play between the guard and the tackle. If you're inside and there's not a tight end, so we'll go to the other side, then you are a 5. If you're inside the tackle, that makes you a 4I. So these are different places you might be as a defensive end. And then defensive tackle, this can be a 3 tech, this can be a 1 tech, and this can be a nose tackle, depending on the type of defense, right? So same thing for defensive end. If the center's here, they're an inside guy, so guard, tackle, guard, tackle. We'll do it in red again to make it easy. 3 tech is on the outside shoulder of the guard, so they're lined up right here. 1 tech is in the middle. 1 tech, they are on the inside shoulder. They're on the outside shoulder of the center. And then nose tackle is straight on them. So this is how it is for the D line. And then their job, rush the passer, outside run. And then on this side, we have the defensive tackle. Their job is to stop the run primarily. So they do everything. They pass rush as well, but primarily their job is to stop the run. Some famous defensive ends that you've heard of. Him and Chloe Kim. So you might have heard of Myles Garrett. Micah Parsons. And then this one is a little bit of a homer, but shout out to my former roommate in college, one of them. His favorite guy will go Aiden Hutchinson. So that was for you, George. Shout out to George. And then for the defensive tackles, we have the big bodies. You have Aaron Donald. Let's go with Jalen Carter. And then because he's a Cowboy, we'll go with Quinnen Williams. So this is the D-line. After the D-line, though, that's whenever it starts to get a little complicated, depending on the defense you're playing. But we're just going to go about it as if there is, for the D-line, like, you could have outside linebackers, but we're just going to call those defensive ends and this system. And then for linebackers, we're just going to go a 3-set linebacker room. And the linebackers are a lot more fun, right? Because if you saw the first video, linebackers have fun names, right? So the fun names can be M, which is Mike. W, which is Will. Sam, which is strong. Or, sorry. That's the next thing I'll go over. So Sam is strong. You can have R, Rover. B, Bandit. No other position has this fun names, but let's see, kind of like where these places go. So Rover, think ranging. They're the linebacker that plays on the outside. So this is like field linebacker. This is boundary. So Bandit is in the boundary. Sam is strong. They're on the strong side of the field. Will is weak. So they're on the weak side of the field. And strength is determined by whatever the defense goes by. So whether it's how people are lined up, maybe the field side, it depends on the defense. And then Mike is middle. And then we'll circle Mike in green. This is what they call the green dot. So the Mike is green dot. And they're the defensive, they make the defense run. So this is the basic of Mike, Will, Sam, and Rover, and Bandit. The Mike is the green dot. They're in charge. They're like the defensive captain normally. CPT for captain. And where they lined up, okay? So we're going to make the same standard O-line we've been making. The positions don't really matter for the end and tackles because that's not what we're worried about, but we'll just put them there. And then the linebackers, we're going to put all 5 on the screen, but you normally would only have 3 of them. But we'll go with Mike. Mike would be in the middle, or Mike would be in a 30, which is over the guard. So kind of how we've talked about it before, but 1, 1, 3, 5, 3, 5 is how you judge that. So the Mike is playing off of the guard. So they're back here, which puts them at a 30. We'll put the Will also at a 30. And then the Sam is going to be opposite of the Will. So the Will's on the left. The Sam's on the right. So we'll put the Sam here, and then he'll just be in open space, which is right there. If you were to get rid of the Mike and Will and kind of the system we just decided, you could put the Mike here. You could have the Bandit and the boundary. So the boundary's right here. And then you could have the Rover over here. Different systems have different types of terminology, but that's that for the linebackers. But yes, the important thing is understanding that the Mike is like the defensive captain normally. They're very smart. They are in charge of everything that goes on. And they're normally like the one that hears the plays, which is what the green dot is. You hear the plays coming in from the defensive coordinator. Next up, we have secondary or DBs. You might have heard the term DBs. DB is anyone that plays in the backfield. They are defensive backs. So there's a whole lot of names, whole lot of things coming, but this is what that means. We have the free safety, we have SS, which is strong safety. Actually, before I do that real quick, let me just go through the linebackers and give some examples. Example linebackers that people have heard of. We'll go with Luke Kuechly, Ray Lewis, although we know he did that. We'll go with Leighton Vander Esch. Shout out to LVE, former Cowboys linebacker, Sean Lee. And then we'll end with the current guy, and we will go with absolute freak of nature. Who should we go? We'll go for longevity purposes, Bobby Wagner. So these are some linebacker examples. But back to secondary, we have free safety, strong safety. So for the free safety, what is their job? They are over the top. So their job is to make sure that no one gets behind them. So what does that look like? Well, we can get rid of all this now. We already went through all the guys under them, but you don't want to allow people to get past you. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, if we make the same O-line, so we'll just put the offensive line. We're not worried about the receivers right now. But X, 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 X. And then we have the linebackers. We'll put linebacker, linebacker, linebacker. Doesn't really matter, right? But the free safety will play on the side with more field. Strong safety will be closer to the box. And essentially they're playing over the top. So over the top means I don't want anyone getting past me here. As this person gets up here, depending on the coverage, the free safety's job is normally to be above that, to make sure that no one gets behind them. So their job is over the top, stop, pass. And then the strong safety is a little more underneath, and then help run. Now, the strong safety's job is complex because they have to be able to guard receivers, but also they have to be able to tackle and help out whenever they're needed there. Some examples of free safeties. And I'm going to try and do people that you've heard of. We'll go with Earl Thomas. We will go with Malik Hooker. And then just to clear some room, last name, it can be anybody. We'll go with Jesse Bates. So all of them are free safeties. And then strong safety, these people, they come up and hit people. We'll go with Cam Chancellor. We'll go with, who else is important in play safety? Nick. Now, this is a guy who's a real stud for the Seahawks. But we'll go with Nick Emanwari. And then strong safety you've heard of. Well, we'll just go with those two for now. But this is for the safeties. They're one part of the DBs. The other part is the cornerback. Now, for a cornerback, you can have up to 4 cornerbacks on the field at a time in most normal defenses. You normally will only have 2, maybe 3, depending on what defense you're in. So there's multiple. Say I want to get rid of this linebacker, right? We're going to go over 3 positions that there are, which is boundary corner, cornerback. There's field corner, cornerback. And then there's nickelback, who's also cornerback. Sometimes if you're in dime, you'll have an extra person, but it just depends, right? So going through those, there is field corner. Their job, play the field. Boundary corner. Play the boundary. And with the boundary corner, this is normally the guy that you're like, yo, they can hit really well. We can leave them alone because on the boundary side, you want to just leave them in one-on-one coverage a lot of the time. The field corner is normally a lot more like rangy. They can move well. So some examples of a field corner, we'll do Quinyon Mitchell. We will do Trayvon Diggs. And then for boundary corner, we'll go with Patrick Surtain. And then anyone else of note that's really important. He didn't have a great year. Well, we'll leave him for Nickelback because, not really a great year there. We'll go with Tariq Woolen. So, because he's on the move and he is someone that I think is a fun player. So, field corner, boundary corner. Those are some of the other positions in the defensive backfield. Now we're going to get into the more specialty, but they kind of play off of this. They're in the same category of defensive back, but that is NB, which is nickelback. Not the artist, but rather the player. They could also be like the star. They could be whatever. But this is a person. They come in. They can blitz, cover the short, fast guy. It just depends on what defense they're in. So an example of them on the field, right, is whenever you have nickel, which is 5 DBs. So 5 DBs are on the field. We'll have the same 4, and then we'll have 2, and then we'll have 1 cornerback. So we'll go field corner, boundary corner. Now you need the free safety, strong safety, or we'll switch this. Free safety, strong safety. Now the nickelback is the 5th corner, or the 5th DB, so you put them here. This is the nickelback. They can blitz, they can guard here, they can cover routes, they can kind of do it all. They're kind of like the Joker of a defense. And then the last one we'll go over is just cornerback. If you're in dime is 6 DBs. So you just take out another one of the linebackers maybe, and then you put a cornerback here. But it's all situational. It depends, or maybe you have them play back here. It all is situational. It all matters based on the system and things going on. But yeah, overall, the goal of this video was to teach the basic foundations. Oh, wait. There's a couple. I don't want to forget everybody. We're not going to go over like long snapper and the specialty sort of stuff because while that's cool, most people are like, don't really care. We'll go over kicker and punter. Special teams matter. So we'll have some special teams. We have kicker, punter. So they punt the ball. Now, punting isn't like necessarily a bad thing, but if you're punting, then you're not scoring points and you want to score points. The kicker, they kick field goals, and then they kick point after try. So, for example, a touchdown is 6 points. The kick you kick after is a point after try. So the 6 becomes 7. And that is your full touchdown as you know it. And then field goal is 3 points. So they kick that. Some example kickers. We have Brandon Aubrey from the Cowboys. I would say Justin Tucker, but we don't like that guy. So we'll just pick Graham Gano. But that's the sort of the position there. And then for punter, we'll go with we'll go with Marquise King. And then we'll go with Brian Anger, because he's the Cowboys punter. Now, the special teams guys are normally kind of like on their own, just hanging out on the team, but still important because they win and lose games. Special teams matters. But yeah, I hope this video helps. As football season gets closer, you're going to want to learn more about the sport. And so the best way to do that is just to start watching videos like this. And I hope to keep making content that helps with that. So, Teach Tape Tuesday, EP2. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good rest of your day. If you like the video, like, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends about the page if they need to learn this, or if you just want a refresher. Thank you very much, and have a good one.